Welcome to our Chef at the Market virtual demonstration brought to you by RV Ag. Each week we will be featuring local chefs who will be sharing recipes using farm fresh products sourced from the RV Ag online marketplace. For more information or recipes, visit our website.
Hi, my name is Gianna Stanley. I am a private chef and food blogger here with RV Ag to make a plant-based Bolognese. We're going to be stuffing some chickpea tempeh in these amazing peppers. So we're going to start with preparing our vegetables. I'm going to be cutting this onion here. We're going to be dicing it pretty finely for this to really allow the onion to soften and to add some flavor into this dish. But you just want that nice, fine dice. I love to use the back of my knife as a little scooper. It really helps me get everything off of the cutting board and not onto the floor. Then next we're going to get some garlic prepared. So yeah, see, once you kind of break it down, it just really peels right off. All right, next we're gonna work on these tomatoes. These beautiful tomatoes are gonna really be the star of the dish. I like to cut them into quarters. So I just kind of scoop them out into a strainer, and you don't need a strainer like this, really any type of strainer will work. And I like to do this as one of the first steps so that you really allow the liquid to kind of come off of it. So I'll just let this sit. You can see that there's already a little bit of liquid in there. And then we will go to the carrots. So first, even though I've washed these carrots, I'm going to be peeling them. Carrots are another thing that I find adds a lot of texture when it comes to making a Bolognese. Especially a plant-based Bolognese. It really holds up well under the heat of both baking the stuffed peppers and then also on the stovetop. So you get a nice bite once you've got the carrots. It also adds some sweetness to the dish. And again here, I'm just kind of getting these really roughly chopped pieces. Uniformity, especially when you're cooking for yourself, I find is not something you need to pay close attention to because it's going to taste delicious either way. All right, so I've washed this parsley here. We're going to be cutting it up just roughly. I mean, just like everything else I've been doing, if you couldn't tell, I really like a rustic cut on my food. I think that it adds more diversity and texture. And, you know, like I said, it's all going in this delicious Bolognese sauce, so it's gonna be good regardless of whether it's a nice little fine chiffonade or a rough chop. And so this is about the amount of parsley that you'll want. You can reserve some to sprinkle on top once your peppers come out of the oven, or just do it all into your sauce. With these are really gorgeous. They stand up on their own, so I'm gonna be cutting the tops off and coring out the center. What I typically do with these tops is you can either make it a really fun, what I would do with these tops is you can make it really fun and put them on top so that whoever you're serving dinner to, even if it's just yourself, you're like, whoa, there's food in there, that's awesome. I find that tempeh is a really good, versatile protein alternative to an animal-based protein. It has a really great texture, and especially when you cut it up thinly, it really absorbs the flavor of whatever you're cooking. This one is frozen, and you can see it's still like pretty easy to cut. I mean, it takes more effort than cutting the carrot or the onion, but it's still coming apart pretty well. And I don't know if you can see, let's see the inside here. So you can see that it really has that texture in there, you know. Really great stuff. And there we go, there's our tempeh. This will break down really nicely in our sauce. So here we have this tomato water. I've been letting it kind of sift on its own, but to get that little extra, I tend to just push it through, get that little bit of liquid. Like I said, this adds some extra tomato flavor and moisture to the bolognese. So I'm gonna add some sunflower oil. You can use any high temperature oil here. That would be canola oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil. Mostly nut oils tend to be a higher smoke point. You just want to make sure when you're cooking stovetop that it is an oil that can withstand the heat. Once your oil starts to heat up, you'll see that it kind of starts to ripple on the bottom of the pan. And once that happens, you'll put in your onions and just coat them a bit. You can add a little bit of salt here to really allow the moisture of the onions to come out and really soften them up. And I personally love garlic, so if you're like, wow, that's a lot of garlic, way too much for me, then I would say cut it in half and do the garlic to your taste buds, because you're gonna be the one who's eating this at home. So you'll see there's some liquid, a lot of steam is coming off. I'm just gonna take baking sheet, just let it sit for a little bit. All right, so now we're gonna add some seasoning. Gonna do a little bit of thyme, bit of oregano, actually a little bit more than a bit of oregano. I'd say like a tablespoon of oregano. I think especially when you have a plant-based dish, getting the flavor from your spices is super important to replicate. We're also gonna get some ground pepper in here, some flavor, and then just mix it on up. All right, once you have this kind of like rough looking sauce where, you know, you can pick some of it up and not have a chunk of tomato, but you still have all those chunky tomatoes, this is a good time to add in your carrots and your veggies, just to give them some good time to cook as well. Here we go. At this point, you can let your sauce simmer for about 3 to 5 minutes. Just allow it really to come together. Get those carrots to soften just a bit before you add in your tempeh. All right, so now that your sauce is coming together, you can see that the colors of the peppers and carrots are a little bit less vibrant, meaning they're really soaking in this sauce. You can add in your tempeh now and just allow it to absorb that delicious sauce. So today we've got some fresh parsley. I find that parsley works well with this recipe. Basil works really well with this recipe too, just to kind of really freshen up the flavors. So I find that nutritional yeast is a really good substitute to get that cheesy flavor. So here we are, we've got a really nice and thick plant-based bolognese sauce to stuff into our beautiful peppers. All right, so we've got our peppers here that we prepared earlier. I just wanted to show you guys a little trick. So you may have an uneven pepper here. What you can do is just slice off the tiniest little bit of the bottom so that you still have an intact pepper, but now it's got almost its own little stand. So that definitely helps once it's in the oven. So we've got our spoon here, you give it a nice little swirl in the pot. And then you just start stuffing. Personally, I like to stuff over the pot, even though it's a little bit steamy. It's a lot cleaner than if you were to kind of pull it over here. And I like to fill it right to the top. Not too far over, because then I find that you end up losing some of what you have, and when you're baking it in the oven, if it falls off, you'll just end up with something burned on the side rather than something salvageable. So, stuffing. And so here you go. So now we are ready to put these beautiful stuffed peppers in the oven. We are going to be putting them in at 350 degrees for about 25 to 35 minutes. Whoops. If they fall over, no big deal. Perhaps you might want to open your oven before you bring it over, unlike how I did. And we'll just pop it in. Middle shelf works best so that it gets a good distribution of heat. And we'll close up that door. All right, so our peppers have been in for about 25 minutes, and we're gonna check on them and see how we did. Wow, they look beautiful. We've got some nice blistering on the sides of the peppers, as you can see here. And I'm just gonna slide that under. Would you look at that? And so you've also got some nice crisping on the top of the stuffing, which is beautiful. It's going to add another layer of flavor there. And if you remember this guy from earlier, we've got our little cap friend. So if you want to make it a whole show when you serve this, like that, it's beautiful. All right, and here we have it. We've got a plant-based bolognese stuffed into a beautiful pepper. All of these ingredients from RV Ag. It's going to be absolutely delicious. For more recipes that are plant-based and healthy, you can follow me on Instagram at sustainablygia, or you can check out my blog, sustainablygia.com.